European Union leaders are addressing the membership aspirations of Western Balkan nations at a summit in Brussels. That's the first meeting. The second of the day will only involve EU members, and they'll be discussing the war in Ukraine and Kiev's desire to join the EU. The leaders of Albania, Serbia and North Macedonia had threatened to boycott the summit because there's been so little movement on their countries' applications to become members. Before the gathering, the Serbian Prime Minister said he was expecting nothing to be decided. Our correspondent Sarah Morris is in Brussels. Sarah, in terms of the timetable, where are we? Has the Western Balkan meeting ended, and did anything come out of it?
It has, in fact, ended, and we don't entirely know what's happened because a press conference that was due to be held by the European Commission and Council presidents, as well as Emmanuel Macron, the French president, has actually been cancelled. So we don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. But the bottom line here is that these Western Balkan countries have been waiting years for their chance to join the EU. Now, Albania, Montenegro, North Macedonia and Albania, they have had candidate status for years. In the case of North Macedonia, they've had it for 17 years, but their progress is stalled, and that is a huge frustration. Now, in the case of North Macedonia, we know why. It's in the midst of a cultural spat with Bulgaria. Bulgaria is obviously a full EU member, and Bulgaria is blocking their membership bid. Now, Albania's bid is tied up with North Macedonia, so that's why Albania is being blocked. But there's also a general feeling among some of the EU nations that they're not convinced by the whole idea of EU expansionism, so therefore they're in no rush to admit new members. So this is the malaise, I guess, that we're in at the moment. And we heard from the German President Olaf Scholz, Chancellor, I should say, as he was coming into that Western Balkans meeting. He was saying, look, we really need to sort this out because these Western Balkan countries have been reforming as the EU has asked them to do, and we now need to show them that there will be light at the end of the tunnel, that in fact, with reform and with discussion, there will be a route, if you like, through to being an EU member. At the moment, I don't think those countries are convinced there is.
Sarah, is there a feeling of favouritism towards Ukraine? I mean, clearly the conflict that's happening there and the Russian attacks have focused everybody's minds, and people are saying that actually the war in Ukraine is also what's pushing the Western Balkan issue to the front again. But Ukraine, it's going to get the approval that it needs from the EU, surely.
Yeah, we're pretty confident it is. We heard from a number of the leaders as they walked into the meeting this morning saying they expect unanimous approval for Ukraine and, in fact, Moldova as well to be given EU candidate status. Now, I think the Western Balkan countries do feel to a degree they're being sidelined here. And we have to admit it's been fast for Ukraine. If you look at it before the war, the EU had made it quite clear that Ukraine didn't meet the standards required to join the EU. War breaks out. They put in an application, and just 100 days later, we have the EU Commission basically recommending that they should be given this status. So therefore you can see that's a record. It appears to be fast-tracked. Ukraine disagrees and says there's a process and every country moves at a different pace. But I think what we have to realise is even if this does happen today, which we expect it will, it's not like Ukraine joins the EU tomorrow. This is just candidate status. It doesn't even open accession talks. That happens later as well. We've been told that the EU really feels those talks can't start till the war is over. And there is a long list of requirements that Ukraine will have to meet if it is to pass the next few stages. A functioning market economy, it must have diplomacy, the rule of law. There's certainly huge corruption issues and economic issues in Ukraine. So it's going to be a long, long trail for them to actually get to the point of being an EU member if it ever happens. But we have to say this is probably an historic moment. I suspect it's a morale booster for Ukraine. And I think also it's a message from the EU to Russia that Brussels is not intimidated by Moscow.
That's Sarah Morris for us in Brussels. Thanks, Sarah.